they need to, in this postseason, look like they are a championship contender. And when I say in this postseason, I want to let people know we're at the All-Star break. The Oklahoma City Thunder have 26 losses. The Los Angeles Clippers have 26 losses. And the Los Angeles Clippers right now are the 9 seed. The 9 seed does not get to go to the playoffs. So while the Thunder have turned it around from what was a tough start, and they're dealing with Roberson's injury, but dealing with it relatively well, the idea that they are a lock for the playoffs is not accurate right now. Now, I think they'll make it, but there's 26 losses is the Thunder, the Nuggets, the Blazers, the Pelicans, and the Clippers. One of those teams is going to get left out. So I look at it simply, Chris, like, let's assume they make the playoffs. If they make the Western Conference Finals or further, I would be shocked if he leaves. If they only make the second round, I think it's about a coin flip. And if they get knocked out in the first round or somehow miss the postseason, then I think he would be asking himself, well, am I really closer to competing for a championship here than in my hometown where his heart seems to be in Los Angeles? So I think it's all about how they do in the playoffs, Chris.
And regardless of what the fans, wherever the game would have been, Paul would have been a fan favorite. Like, even if it had been in New York. Like, man, Paul George come to New York. He is that kind of special player, one of the best two-way players that we have in the NBA. But, you know, you mentioned the records and everything. It's got a lot to do with their seeding. I do believe they'll make the playoffs. But their seeding, man, if they're 6, if they're 5, I mean, they're better off at 5 or 4 than they are going 6, 7, or 8. Because you're talking about a first-round matchup with either San Antonio, either Golden State, or Houston. And in those battles right there, they could be out in the first round. And going out in the first round, besides having him actually in OKC where he knows the ownership, he knows the fan base, he's seen the facilities, he's played one season with Russ, I mean, how much more encouraging would that be than potentially starting over in Los Angeles? Like, you have to realize the draw of Los Angeles, just the normal players, let alone someone who is from California. So if he's had a desire to play there, I could see Paul George deciding to play with the Lakers. Also, LeBron James. Like, we don't know what LeBron's going to do. So they could be successful in the playoffs, make it to the Western Conference Finals, and if LeBron decided to go to Los Angeles, I believe that just wipes out whatever type of chemistry that they were building, and I believe LeBron's decision will supersede whatever that they do as a team in OKC.
That might be true, but I think there's also, let's say LeBron does not go to Los Angeles. I still think Paul George could go, but only if Oklahoma City flames out. I don't think he has to go with LeBron.
Right.
And so the other thing to remember about Paul George, there's only a handful of guys in the NBA that can say this. I have been the best player on a team that was one of the Final Four teams standing. You go around the league, there's not a lot of guys because it's usually the same teams. You know, Steph can say that, Durant can say that, Russell Westbrook can't say that. He's never been the best player on a conference finalist. So Paul George can say that. And the reason I bring that up is he knows what going deep in the playoffs feels like, which means when he doesn't, it's something he can feel. He knows what he's missing out on. And so it's another reason why I think these playoffs are so important for the future of Oklahoma City. Because it's tough to get free agents there now. Sam Presti's done a great job through trades.
Yes.
I'm yet to see the big free agent that says, I've made my decision, I'm going to go live in Oklahoma City.
Well, more importantly, look at the 2 that they've lost in Harden and in KD. Like, if he couldn't keep, they were drafted there, and they couldn't keep them, let alone someone that's come from another franchise like Paul did with the Pacers.
Do you think Paul is a player that wants to be the guy? Do you think, I mean, what he was in Indiana, do you think he is the type of player that wants to be the #1 option?
I don't think he has to be. I think that if that was the single most important thing to him, he wouldn't be entertaining staying in Oklahoma City. But I also don't think he's against it.
Do you think the single most important thing to him is winning?
Man, it's always so hard because we always expect guys, of course, the most important thing is winning. But that's not always most people's jobs are some type of competitive, and you weigh all of it. Like, I want to work at the best company, but I also want to work where I'm happy.
Right.
I also want to work where I enjoy the city. I think winning, I couldn't see Paul George going to any non-contender except for one in his hometown of Los Angeles. Like, you know what I mean? I think winning is very important to him. I don't think it's the only math he has to do, though.
Right, and I think with the history that he had in the East, with the Pacers going against LeBron, I think winning is important to him because how he fared in those games, he knows it's about talent. And it's not about people questioning his talent. People think he's one of the top 10 basketball players, 15 basketball players in the world. So how do I win? Because we know he's going to win contract-wise. He's not a really, really big brand. He's not a guy looking to sell shoes and everything. So now it's based on what he does on the court. And he's very, very competitive. Every time he's faced against LeBron, he stepped up to the challenge. So I'm sure that he wants to be part of a solution that's able to unseat Golden State.
And I'm going to bring up a team, not that he could go to, but that could play a big role in this. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves right now are the 4 seed. Right now, the Thunder are the 5 seed. So that's who they would face in the first round. If you're in Oklahoma City and you get to round 2 and you lose to the Warriors, I think you say, okay, like, you know what? Everyone might lose to the Warriors this year. Everyone lost to them last year. We are still close. If you lose even to the Rockets or even to Popovich and the Spurs when Kawhi's back, maybe you can say, all right, you know what? A few tweaks here. Roberson back next year. We can be better. But if you lose to the Timberwolves in round 1, and you say, well, they're just going to get better. They've got young players. Jimmy Butler's not leaving this year.
Right.
Like, if we're not even good enough to beat that team, much less the real cream of the crop in the West, then am I making a winning decision staying here versus Los Angeles?
And I'm basically making the same move from the Pacers.
Right.
Because the Pacers weren't the number 2 team in the East. They had a couple battles with LeBron. I mean, they weren't as close as he would like them to be. He played outstanding. So he's like, wow, my career's kind of going in circles. I feel like I'm on a franchise that's the 4th or 5th best, maybe in the conference. Right. That's not something I'm sure that Paul is looking at this point in his career.
In 2 places that are smaller markets. So
yes.
The appeal of going not only back home, but to a market that
right,
like
so a market where, and everyone, while Chris said, you know, he's not super focused on his brand, I think guys like to be a big brand. It might not be the most.
Yeah, but he's not someone that is drawn. He doesn't have all the other things around him that the other players do.
Sure.
You don't hear about him having these other interests that these other players do.
He's not making a movie like Kyrie?
No, he's going fishing a lot of times. If you follow him, he likes to fish a lot. So
you like the fisherman.
Do you like to fish?
I used to like to fish. I'm in New York City. Ain't no too much fishing going on.
Go in the Hudson season.
Yeah, right.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.